roughly in the public schools in Memphis, 32% of third graders read at third grade level. If we could bump that up to 70 or 80%, all these problems that we talk about, crime and poverty and joblessness, and all goes away.
Hi, and welcome to this edition of Mid-South Viewpoint, where we're on location right now, and I am so excited. This has been a dream of mine to sit down in the Memphis mayor's office and do a radio interview. And we have the newest mayor right now here in our city, Mayor Jim Strickland. Mayor, thank you so much for the invitation to come and be with you today.
Well, you're welcome. It's my honor to have you.
Well, now you grew up on the banks of a different river. Your office is overlooking the Mississippi River here, but you grew up in, let me make sure I say it right, Mishawaka, Indiana, a suburb right outside of
South Bend,
Indiana.
I was actually born there. I grew up in Cincinnati and Louisville, which is another river.
What a split too for sports teams for you. I mean, your allegiance, of course, we know your allegiance here in town where it belongs.
Right. Well, when I grew up in Louisville, I was not a University of Louisville fan. I was a University of Kentucky fan.
Oh, okay.
So when I came here, went to then Memphis State, and Louisville was a big rival.
Yeah.
It was okay.
So you had to change pretty quick then.
Yes.
Well, you and your wife, now is it
Melanie.
Melanie is your wife's name,
Yes.
and she spells it a little different.
Yes.
Than what?
Yeah, it's her mother. My mother-in-law had an uncle she really adored named Lynn, and she wanted to put his name in Melanie's spelling, so that's why her spelling is so odd.
And how and where did you meet?
We met on a blind date here in Memphis. My former law partner, David Kustoff, was friends with Melanie through another friend of his and set us up on a blind date. And about a week before the blind date, David and I were going to a friend's house, Bill Gibbons, the former district attorney here. We were on Harbert in Midtown, and Melanie happened to live 3 doors down and was jogging down the street, and I got to meet her about a week before our date. So
Was it love at first sight?
Well, I always joke it was love at first sight for me.
Yeah. Isn't that all the way it is with us guys?
It took months and maybe years to convince her it was love at first sight.
It seems us guys have to kind of, that happens for us a lot.
Right.
Now you have 2 children.
Yes. A son who's 14 and a daughter who's 10.
You've been at mayor now just since January. You took the office and came in here. What have been some of the unexpected adjustments do you feel that you've had to make since you walked into this office?
Well, from policy issues and things happen, such as we had a very bad sewage leak that occurred south part of town. Obviously never expected that. And then from those kind of issues that affect the public to personal issues were just time, managing my own time. Because it's hard to meet and talk with all the people who want to meet and talk with me and still actually get the job done. So it's a constant battle. If all I did, I could spend my entire day every half hour meeting with a different person who wanted to talk with me.
Which means you've got to have a great team around you to do all that.
There's no doubt. I was elected October 8th, took office January 1st, and we focused on 2 things: hiring good people, and then what policies would we implement when we got here. And I focused mostly on the hiring people. I knew it was important. I didn't realize how important it was. And this is true in the radio business or grocery store or FedEx or whatever, or running city government. You have to have good people around you because they're the ones who actually get the work done. They give you great advice. And you have to have good advice to make final decisions because not every decision is very easy to make.
Yeah.
So having good people was extraordinarily important, and we have been very fortunate to have good people.
Mayor, how has your view of the city changed since you've taken office compared to your view as city council member? Because I'm sure there's a little bit of difference here because you have a bigger, broader picture now.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt I have a broader picture. Our districts are big, but they're not citywide. I don't know if I have a different perspective, but the thing that strikes me about the people of Memphis is that, first of all, we all want the same thing. We want a nice neighborhood, a clean neighborhood, a safe neighborhood, where our kids can get a good education. and I don't care if you're black or white, Democrat or Republican, Jewish, Muslim, or Christian. We all want the same thing. But what struck me is that people in Memphis, of all stripes, want to help. They want to help Memphis be better. I get asked the question all the time, what can I do to help? And that is really makes me feel good about the Memphis and its future.
Would you say that's what excites you most when you walk into this office every day and do your job? That there's people out there like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is a great job to serve. I tell the story about why I got into service, and part of it is religious faith, and part of it is political inspiration. I don't know how much time I've got, but basically, the first presidential election I ever paid attention to was 1976. I was 12 years old, about to be 13, and I think I was 13 by the time Election Day hit. But I wondered during that's the Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford race, and I'd wondered at that time, being a Roman Catholic, had there ever been a Catholic president? And that was, of course, the answer then is the same now as John Kennedy. And I started reading about him, Profiles in Courage, watching his speeches, and really became inspired. His line from his inauguration, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." That's, to me, a clarion call for service. And then when you reflect, as a Christian, I believe one of the messages of the New Testament is to serve others, especially those less fortunate. And when you combine political service and my Christian faith, they really fit hand in glove around service. And so to me, elected service, government service is very honorable. I know sometimes we elected officials don't reflect that sometimes, but I think it's a very honorable service, and I get excited about that, the opportunity to serve others. And by serving others, we can make Memphis better and the lives of Memphians better. And that's what our goal is, every day, to make lives better for Memphians.
What do you feel have been or were some of the pivotal decisions you made early in your career that's helped you to where you are right now?
My career.
Yeah.
One thing my dad always told me was, in your life you have several big decisions, and really focus in trying to make those decisions, such as your occupation, your schooling, your spouse. Car, you can get a new car. Yeah. These other big decisions are important. So I took education very seriously. I'd say kind of an average student, but I worked hard, and I was a better student in college than I was in high school. I was a better student in law school than I was in college, just working to get better and better and better, because the better grades you get and the better education you get, the more opportunities you have. Right. It doesn't guarantee success. No. And then working here in Memphis for another law firm called Glankler Brown, which is a fantastic big firm in Memphis. Learned a lot, and then went out in partnership with my friend earlier. I mentioned David Kustoff, and he and I practiced law for probably 15 years before I started serving this job. So, the pivotal things to me would be, in a career, getting a good education, doing the best you can, and then getting jobs and working as hard as you can and learning. We all make mistakes, but you just got to learn from the mistakes and work hard. There's no substitute for working hard.
Boy, that's a good word there. I really am missing value, and today we need to teach that to our kids. We need to live it as parents too.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
But it's funny. My son's about to enter high school, and I keep saying it. I don't think he believes me yet. How much harder high school is going to be than grade school. And and for the first time, grades are going to count.
Yeah.
Because that first grade you make, that first semester or whatever, is going to be on that college transcript. And it's time to buckle down.
Time to buckle down. With all the various demands on this office from groups, organizations, companies, I know when I walked in, you're on the phone, all this happening. How do you personally bring it all to a manageable perspective and balance? Or have you figured it out yet?
I don't know. When I figure it out, I'll let you know. I don't know. I just come down to all I can do is the best I can do. So if I work hard on doing the best I can do, that, in sports, you say you leave it all out on the field.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like. Some days I probably do better than others, but my goal is just to do the best I can. And I'm hoping the best I can is good enough.
I've heard it said that a great leader, when he's climbing the ladder, he takes the people around him with him. Who would you say has mentored you in leadership and helped you to carry you to the places where you are today?
Well, it's funny you asked that question because there was the vice president of student services at the University of Memphis when I was there was a guy named Don Carson, Dr. Donald Carson. And the reason it's funny you say that, earlier today was one of his other former students who he mentored, who I hadn't seen in years. He now lives in Florida. And we're talking about Dr. Carson, about how he mentored us all, gave great advice, pushed us to achieve, really stressed academics, but also being involved in the community. I'd say that's one person. I'd say, frankly, Jesus Christ speaking through the Gospels is pushed me to service, as I said earlier.
Right.
I've picked up a lot from a lot of different people. My law partner, David Kustoff, my parents. I try to pick up the best parts of every people, and try to duplicate that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I like American history too. So I read as much as I can there, and kind of inspired by, we have had so many great Americans, so many great Memphians.
Yes.
Really kind of lead the way. So I kind of try to pick up from all different sorts.
Now, throughout your campaign, you focused on two big issues: crime and poverty, which are two areas that have plagued our city for some time. And also brought us a lot of national negative media attention. There's no overnight fix. We know that. I think the citizens know that. But what are some positive signs for a long-term solution in these areas by citizens that are listening to us right now? Do you see that are making an impact or are potentially making an impact to address this issue?
Oh, absolutely. And I talk about them a lot. They're great groups like the Boys and Girls Clubs, the YMCA, YWCA, Streets Ministries, Memphis Athletic Ministries, and there's so many other great groups, and a lot of different churches do too. These groups help intervene in the lives of young people. And to me, you asked about long-term solutions to crime. That's the true long-term solution to crime. If kids have a pretty good education and a real solid upbringing, structure, and something constructive to do out when they're not in school, the chances of them succeeding and not leading a life of crime, I think, improve dramatically. And I always brag about particularly the Boys and Girls Club because they actually measure their results. The others may measure it too, but I know the Boys and Girls Club. But for 3 years in a row, and for those who don't know, they help middle schoolers and high schoolers after school, academically, socially, life skills, and so forth. And for 3 years in a row, 100% of their high school graduates have gone on to college or gotten a job. For 3 years in a row, 100%. That, if we had more of them, our city would really take off with positive growth.
The program like a Rice to Read, for example,
Yes.
it's making some really great headways, especially at Treadwell Elementary.
Absolutely.
Right now.
There's so many great groups. I mean, that's the thing that some Memphians don't understand. There's so many. There's probably 100 or 200 great groups that are helping, from toddlers, early childhood reading, to teens, to seniors.
Yes.
What my goal is on the city government side is we have to like put all that on steroids and grow it, because we're helping thousands of young people. We got to help tens of thousands of young people. So the place we're going to focus in on are community centers. We have 24 of them. If we could really grow the amount of programming and the number of children we serve, it would help them, those individual students, but also help our entire city.
It really would, Mayor. When I attended public school here in Memphis, I remember Officer Friendly. He would come, and give us the little safety speeches, how to say no to drugs, to avoid strangers, how to have respect for, law enforcement. There's a divide right now, I think between our law enforcement and our youth. How would you see we better build those bridges to address the tension that lies between youth and our law enforcement?
Yeah, and that's a foreign concept to many people who grew up like you and I did,
Yeah.
where we respected law enforcement, and it's surprising to hear people don't. The way you do it is the interaction. Now it's called community policing, which is basically the police getting to know their community. Former director Tony Armstrong told me how that affected when he was a patrol officer or an investigator. His relationship with the community helped lift up the kids in the community, but also helped him as a police officer solve crimes, because there's somebody out there who knows who commits all these crimes.
Right.
And if the public feels comfortable with the police, they will actually share the information with them. So it helps both ways. Director Armstrong put in place, and our now Director Rollins is working on community policing. We have limited resources. We wish we could expand that to most of the city instead of just North Memphis and South Memphis. But our plan would be to expand that so that police have a better relationship with the community. And one thing we're doing this summer, we're having police officers assigned to the different community centers, not only to make it safe, but also to get to know the kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I recently spoke with a pastor who grew up in South Memphis. He was one of 14 children. Both mom and dad were working in the home, hardworking, parents example. His best friend next door made straight A's, was offered 4 scholarships. He, however, chose a completely different road in some of the choices he made, choices of crime and drugs. And it's not just the environment that our young people are growing up in. It is knowing how to make the right decisions, for their life. For example, the next door neighbor who made the right decisions. How can we intervene? And I know this is something you talk about too. We can intervene in a way that helps our young people, but it also instills in them a sense of ownership, a sense of responsibility that they have to make those choices.
Well, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The programs are out there. 2 ways. Mentoring. The Grizzlies have a mentoring program. A lot of different organizations have mentoring program. And if all of us just took one child to mentor, it would transform the city. Secondly is get involved with these groups that I mentioned earlier, Memphis Athletic Ministries and Streets Ministries. I've heard Ken Bennett from Streets Ministries talk about how he started. I mean, he started in his trunk of his car, just working with individuals' kids, and now it's grown into a hugely successful operation. Got 2 places, one South Memphis, one up in not far from Kingsbury.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just hanging out sometimes makes a big difference.
And if you're there with them, hanging out, and eventually you build a relationship, and they accept advice. And kids want structure. I believe kids want to be good.
Yeah.
We just got to do a better job of reaching out to them.
I spent an afternoon with my wife and one of my son, who's actually videotaping here in the office with us today, went to Claiborne Foot one afternoon. There was a group from Missouri called, and they said, hey, we want to do something to minister to the kids in the inner city. And so we just took it on our own. We were unorganized, went over to a little park in Claiborne Foot, brought some food, and just interacted with the kids and played games, and it was a great time,
Right.
And I remember one little kid snuggled up with my wife, and she kind of took affection there, I guess, being close to my wife, and said that they were tired of hearing the gunshots. They didn't like to see people get beat up, and she just really took comfort in the fact that there was an adult there that had her arm around her and was just listening to what she had to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's very inspirational. We just got to. The goal for me, the burden on me, the challenge to me is to get more people to do that, to help us out, and I think people are ready to do it. They're just waiting for that call, and sometime over the next few weeks, we're going to challenge the city to be involved in certain specific ways.
Mayor, what has been the greatest personal burden that you've had to carry so far in your life? We all carry different burdens at times. What was that burden, and how did you get through that time?
That's a hard question because, fortunately, I've been blessed with a great life. I tell people that I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and it was almost kind of Leave It to Beaver, where I'd ride my bike up to the pharmacy and get my baseball cards and play baseball and go all over the neighborhood, and had two great parents, two great brothers. What I'm about to say pales in comparison to challenges other people have had. And it only lasted for about a week. My son was born with some complications and was in the NICU for a week. And that was very stressful. The great people at Baptist Hospital and Baptist Women's Hospital were fantastic. And, you don't have any control over it.
No.
So, you pray and you rely on the experts. And fortunately, it worked out. But like I said, that pales in comparison to people across the city who are struggling to put food on their plate. So I hate to even talk about.
Yeah, but we all have our personal burdens, and at the time we're going through those, they seem like an eternity, and if there's
true.
not a definite answer, but finding ways that we can get through that, support of our other neighbors and our family, like you said, and help, prayer and God that we can make it through those times.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about relaxing. You got to have some time to relax. What is fun time around the Strickland home?
Mostly family activities. My kids are still small, so we go to basketball games and soccer games and piano recitals and all that kind of stuff. Anything family. Love watching movies. My son and I are big sports fans, mostly University of Memphis, also Grizzlies. So it's basically hanging out with the family. Before I became mayor, I played tennis quite a bit. I'm trying to get back into that. I love tennis. It's a sport you can play forever in different levels. So, those are kind of things that, we have a couple family TV shows we like to watch. The Flash is one family show that we all like to watch. So it's mostly family oriented.
Now, I know that you have to find some way to separate the affairs of our city and all the things that you deal with when you walk in the door to be with the family. I know it's got to be tough, especially in light of the things that can happen in any given day. You've got the tragic death of a police officer, and you've got to be with their family. Potentially situations like Orlando that could we don't ever want to happen in our city, but you just never know what could happen in any one given day. How are you able to separate, the pressures in this office from family life?
I don't know if I'm doing that very well yet. It's hard because I'm constantly thinking about things like that, and even things like how can we better clean up the blight in our city? How can we better cut the grass? The city, parks and the interchanges, the I-240 interchanges where there's grass. How can we do a better job at that? How can we better serve? And then you have these tragic situations. I'm not sure I'm doing a very good job at it. I guess you'd have to ask my wife, but it is a challenge. I need to do a better job.
If you could fix one area or improve one thing in the city by the end of this term, what would you like to see happen?
Well,
I'm sure you have a list.
Yeah, let me give you two things. Number one, see a substantial reduction in violent crime. I can't quantify it, but if we can have a substantial reduction, we're not going to eliminate it, but if we have substantial reduction, I think that would help us grow a lot. And then something I really don't have control over, although I'm helping out, reading levels for third graders. It's roughly in the public schools in Memphis, 32% of third graders read at third grade level. If we could bump that up to 70 or 80%, all these problems that we talk about, crime and poverty and joblessness and all goes away. And so that's going to take more than 4 years.
Most definitely. Okay, how do you determine your ultimate success as mayor here in the city?
Well, it's a simple thing, but it's hard to quantify. Making Memphis better. I mean, we ran on making Memphis better, and that's a reduction of crime, cleaning up the litter, cleaning up the blight, uh, bringing more people into Memphis. Maybe that's the ultimate thing. Memphis has lost population over the last 30, 40 years. If we could actually stop that and increase our population, that means people are buying into what's going on. And if we could do that, I think that would be successful.
And to be able to create, I guess, a community that is a welcome, platform for new business. Like,
Right.
IKEA is getting, is well underway in their construction there, and
Well, and Service Master announcing they were staying, not
Yeah.
only staying but moving downtown.
what a great, yeah.
Oh, that's huge for
Yeah,
Memphis. But that's people buying it. Memphis is a great city. I love Memphis. If we can make some things better by particularly reducing violent crime, I think we'll just take off in growth.
One of the things you're offering, and I'm on the list, so I get it weekly, and I appreciate your email updating citizens of what's happening.
Right.
And so we want to invite our listeners right now to make sure that they can get that weekly update from your office by just going to memphistn.gov to sign up. Right. But that's a great little resource you have there.
We just want to communicate with people, and it's not all just puff news. Everything's great. I mean, we talk
No,
about
it's not.
we talk about what's seriously going on and what we're trying to do to address it, and talk about our failures, our successes, because we want Memphis to know what's going on. They're taxpayers; they need to know. And secondly, we have to build some faith in Memphis that we're moving in the right direction if we really want to grow and make Memphis better.
How, Mayor, can we as a community better support you?
Prayer, that's fantastic. And then over the next month or maybe 2 months, there are going to be specific things that I'm going to ask people to do, and specific things that have measurable results and will make a really long-term change for Memphis. And so one thing is if they can get on the email list, and then they'll hear about our challenge, and then volunteer. And it's not going to be overwhelming. Not, if people want to help a little bit, that's fine, or help a lot.
As we wrap up, I know that the faith community and churches are a big part of some of the programs they offer. They help supplement a lot of the extra costs that, and there's some folks in the trenches that I think Neighborhood Christian Center.
Yes.
And they're just one of many, that are doing a phenomenal job with those after-school programs. And, I mean, I've got a friend in North Memphis that pastors a little church, and there's a lady, she works overnight, but when she gets off her job, she'll come over to the church about 7 o'clock in the morning in the summertime and start cooking meals for about 125 kids. And this is, I mean, if you walk in, I mean, it's not even as big as this office we're in right now. And there's folks like that in the community.
Absolutely.
And I told the former mayor one time, when you turn on the 6 o'clock news, you hear all these tragic things. I would love to see a 6 o'clock newscast just to talk about all of these stories and highlight the people that are making a difference like this that you don't hear about.
Oh, I wish I didn't know about this late. I wish there could be such a thing, but unfortunately, I guess that doesn't sell. So, but I mean, that woman who does that should be celebrated and held up. But it makes what she's doing even more remarkable because she's not getting the adulation.
Yeah.
She's doing it because her heart calls her to do it.
Really cares about it.
Yes.
Well, Mayor, this time has been wonderful. I thank you so much for letting us come into your home. This is beautiful.
you.
Your view here of this river, the bridge downtown. Thank you so much for sharing your time with Bot Radio Network.
Thanks for having me.
Well, friends, that's all the time we have on this edition of Mid-South Viewpoint. It's our pleasure to visit with Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland here in his office as we're on location, and he's been so gracious. Make sure you pray for the mayor. Make sure you go to that website that I gave out a minute ago. Again, it's memphistn.gov, and if you want to send the mayor an email, if you want to sign up for the email list we talked about, go to that website, memphistn.gov, and get all the information. I'm Byron Tyler. Hey, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.